Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to enjoy the gentleman I'm interviewing today. His name is Justin Moy, and he's in just under a couple hundred doors, but a super nice guy. It sounds very knowledgeable from our pre-framed conversation before we started recording here. So really looking forward to having some fun. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Rod, man, thanks so much for having me. Listen for such a long time. It's so interesting to be on this side of the table when you've been listening for so long.
Oh, thank you. That's kind of you to say that. So why don't you take a minute and just give us a little bit of your backstory? Where you came from, why multifamily, and bring us current.
Yeah. So, it all started. My parents always raised me up really traditional, very old school, right? Go to college, get your degree, work your way up that corporate ladder. And, it sounded like a good idea. But really, when I grew up and I matured a little bit, I noticed that my parents didn't like their jobs. and the life that they were selling me, they weren't really huge fans of. And they were that very old school, hey, push your nose down, get your work done, work hard, go home, rinse and repeat. And I just decided, man, I have to fight tooth and nail to get off that track. That's not what I want. And so I decided to look at ways that I can make a lot more money than the average person, even if that meant I had to work a lot harder than the average person. I was okay with that. So after looking at a few ideas, I landed on sales. When I was in high school, I had a lot of retail sales jobs. I was always like number one in the nation or county or whatever it was for selling products. So I said, okay, well, what can I sell that can make me a lot of money? Insurance, cars, or real estate. And at the time, I was in the Bay Area of California. So real estate prices, red hot. You could sell anything and you're making, a high four-figure check, five-figure check. So I started selling homes when I was 18, absolutely loved it, made a ton of money, and realized that I was transactionally rich, but I was far from wealthy. I didn't have control of my time. My mental health and my personal relationships were falling. I didn't make time to go to the gym because I was constantly chasing the next deal, chasing the next deal, chasing the next deal. And I was felt more stressed out than ever. And I had a lot of money, but the money wasn't really what was making me happy. It was, I had no choice. And so I decided to look into, well, how can I balance this out? How can I turn my high income now into residual income in the future that will continue to pay me over and over again? A lot of my clients were investors. And I saw what the lives they were living. I saw what they were doing. I would send them contracts. They say, hey, sorry, man, I'm in Jamaica for 2 weeks. I'll check that out when I get back. Oh, I'm in the Fifi Islands I was like, man, those guys are out there. I'm over here busting my butt. So got into that space. And as most people who get into multifamily know, when you crunch the numbers on single family, it becomes less sexy. You look for ways to scale quicker, get there faster, which is what landed me on multifamily, about 4 years ago. And here we are. I hit accredited status fairly quickly, which was fantastic. Commercial real estate allows you to take advantage of a ton of multiples that we can, dive into, but it's been a phenomenal way to build wealth. And that's why I love telling people, about the side of commercial real estate that you can take advantage.
So tell me about some of the important lessons you've learned in your life.
Yeah.
I know you didn't prepare you for any of these questions, so just shoot from the hip.
I love it. The most important lesson I ever learned in my life, and maybe it was because of the timing that I learned it, was to always trust the process, not the outcome. Pursue the process, not the outcome. Because when I got into residential real estate, for anybody who doesn't know, it's 100% commission role. You don't sell, you don't eat, you don't pay rent, nothing happens. And about 5 or 6 months into my career as a broker, I had 0 deals. I had made $0 in 6 months. And I was cold calling day in and day out. I was doing everything right. I was doing, my mentor said to do this, do open houses, go door knock, go cold call. And I'm doing it. Nothing's happening. I got no leads. And I decided I was going to quit. Actually, it was 7 p.m. I was the last one in the office. I took my headset off. And anybody who's in sales knows you get this dent in your hair when you have this headset on for so long. I had that dent in my head. And, between me, you, and all the listeners out there throughout the world, I started crying. In the office, I put my face in my hands. I said, I can't do this. I'm such a failure. Why did I do this? I wasted 6 months. I've never worked harder and I've never had less. And I looked at my laptop and I saw one more opportunity come up. I used to do for sale by owners. I saw one more pop up. And I looked at that opportunity, man. I probably looked at it for 2.5, 3 minutes. And I said, forget it. I'll do one more call. And these people will never hear from me again. I'll be gone. I'll just never come back. I made that call. And that was the first person to ever say yes to what I was, hey, can I come by and, show you how I can maybe sell your house for more than you could on your own, something like that. She said yes. And I almost thought it was a prank. Like nobody had ever told me yes before. So I went to her house, listed her home. She bought her next home with us, closed on the same day, $60,000 commission check to me after fees, even after taxes. So that to me put me on the path of, okay, you have to trust the process. Don't look at the outcome. Look at what the process needs to be for you to get the outcome and do it every single day. No matter
And of course, those first calls you sucked. You're not good.
Yeah.
You don't really. You're not comfortable. You're reading a script. Everybody knows you're reading a script, so you get better and better at it. So that's great advice. I really like that. Now you mentioned a mentor there at your real estate business. And I know you mentioned you also had a mentor in the multifamily business. So do you believe in mentors?
Yeah, mentors are enormous. I mean, enormous. It
Why?
took me a long time to really understand the value of mentors and really how to leverage mentors. Of course, when I was 18, fresh in real estate, you always think, oh, whatever, information's free online. I can figure this stuff out on my own. And that's partially true. But when you pay somebody and you're able to, in a way, hand off some of that accountability to them, and say, hey, you're a formal mentor now. You're not just a friend of mine who I kind of ask for advice, and those are great too, but a formal mentor to say, hey, I'm paying you this to get me this result. There's a formal structure to our relationship. You have the outline. I'm here to put that outline into my business, into my life. And that has expedited. I think anybody who kind of finds the hidden gem of mentors always goes, oh man, I wish I did this, years ago. Mentors will take you 10 times further and 100 times faster when you find the good ones.
Yeah, you're really paying for speed is really a coaching mentor, same thing. I'll brag for a minute. My Warriors that's my coaching program, my mentorship program. And we're doing a count right now and we're over 160,000 units. I think we're going to hit 170,000 units that they own. And I've only been teaching 5 years. If you've listened to me, I didn't actually have product or anything for just right at 5 years. Really, really proud of that. And like you said, you get a map, you get a blueprint. You're not reinventing the wheel. The wheel's there. You just got to work the wheel. You got to work it. I mean, it's not going to get done for you, but the strategies, the documentation, the methodologies, and all that is already done.
Yeah.
And I only do one live boot camp a year now, and that's coming up September 15th through the 17th. Should be, somewhere between 1,000, 1,200 people there. And that's really where it starts, But let me just say this, I'll throw a plug in, if you are interested in this business, at least come to the boot camp. If you want to move quicker and pay for speed, really that's what it is. Again, you're paying for speed. And if you want to do that, text the word crush to 72345. We'd love to, that's how you apply to my warrior mentorship program. And so let me ask you this, what are you proudest of?
I'm proudest of the way that I've been able to look at every single day now with gratitude, no matter where
good
you're
answer.
at in life, no matter where you're at in your life. And that's, again, something I learned from mentors.
Yeah.
Start off your day with gratitude, right? It's almost that thing, if you ever go car shopping and you decide, man, I think I want to buy a BMW. And now you look around and there's BMWs everywhere you go. You're like, oh my God, everybody drives the same car that I've been shopping for. It's not that everybody started buying those cars, that now that you're thinking of that car, you see it everywhere. Your brain is so good at picking up on things that you want it to focus on. So if you focus on excuses, if you focus on, oh man, I can't do that. I'm not rich. I don't come from wealthy families. I can't do that. Oh, well, that person, his or her dad, knows somebody in the industry. That's why, if you focus on those excuses, you'll find them everywhere. And you'll truly believe that those are things that are holding you back. If you start off with gratitude and you start off looking for opportunities, how can I make this happen? If I absolutely had to make this happen, what would I do? What would be the first step? And when you start with gratitude, you start to be grateful. You start to be just generally happier. You look for things. Oh man, I can't wait to talk about that in my gratitude meeting tomorrow. I can't wait to tell my friends about that. We start all of our meetings with gratitude. That's going to be an exciting one to share. So what you train your brain on is what you're going to find an abundance of. So you got to be hyper aware of what you're telling your brain to look out for.
Yeah, it's actually called your reticular activating system is what it's called technically. And I use that same example. You know, when you first buy a car, you never really notice them, and then they're everywhere. Were they there before? Of course they were. And you know, I really love the fact that you led with gratitude, because there's no more powerful emotion that we have available to us than the emotion of gratitude. I mean, it builds our immune system. Makes, you know, you can't be fearful and grateful at the same time. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. You know, brings us closer to our spirituality, lowers our blood pressure. You know, it just goes on, and it's absolutely how you manifest and bring what you want into your life. You know, I do a little gratitude session most mornings. I'll sit in my recliner and I'll just be grateful for my, you know, supermodel, beautiful wife, my kids, my coaching students, my foundation, and then I'll be grateful for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I will tell you, sometimes I get emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. And I know I lost some of you analytical ones on that, but this is how I had 50 million to lose, and this is how I got it back. Okay, so you know, discount it at your peril is all I'll tell you. Yeah. But because it absolutely works. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this: how would you like to be remembered?
Yeah, I really want to be remembered as leaving an impact on people. Now, in our field, a lot of times, you know, guys like us who raise money and get people investing into deals, a lot of times people think of financial, but there's so much more to that, right? I think the reason why people always think of their finances when they think of like their overall well-being is because, unfortunately, so many people never get over that hurdle of having abundance in finance. And, you know, so that's always the first thing they're thinking of. I need more money, I need more money, I need more money. That's why, you know, these investment opportunities come up, and that's what people think about. But then you get the money, and then you could probably test this. Okay, well, that doesn't always make you whole.
Doesn't make you happy always either.
It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't make you whole. It can't make you healthy. So I love sharing tidbits, of course, about finances, of course, about real estate and investing, and how you can fast track things like retirement. I love that stuff. But I love also, like what we just talked about, like, man, just do this one thing to optimize your life. Look for gratitude. Why aren't you doing it? You know, you're unhappy because you're kind of making yourself unhappy. You're looking for these things. Train your brain to do this. Don't talk about yourself like that. Don't let your negative thought. I mean, if you keep talking about why you can't do things and why you're unworthy and why you're unqualified, you're going to force yourself into that box. So change the way you think, change the way you talk about yourself.
So what are you doing to facilitate what you just said? You know, what are you doing to make the world a better place right now?
Yeah, things like this.
Okay.
Things like this, being able to.
Good answer, actually, and I believe you. You know, sometimes I get people on there like he's full of crap. You know that, but I can tell you're sincere. You really do want to help. In fact, before we even started recording, I said, you know, what's your outcome for being on the show? And it really wasn't to, you know, find investors and bring money to your deals, although that's what you do. It was really to add value, and I could tell you're being sincere. So I salute you for that. So
I appreciate it.
No, it's truth. It's truth. So let me ask you this. You know, you're already well on the path to major success. I know you're going to be a huge success. Why? Because what you give, you get. And so when you're out there giving, it just comes back. I remember when I first started my podcast, I didn't have any. I used to tell people, I'm never going to sell you anything, because I never planned to. Now I'm a liar. I sell everything, but I really never, you know, you want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans. But I remember I used to do free phone calls, 30-minute phone calls. We'll set it up. I did several a day. I did hundreds, and didn't have anything to sell, didn't have anything to give, but I just wanted to add value. And of course that helped ramp the podcast in a huge way. And now, of course, we're blessed to be the largest commercial real estate podcast in the world. But I gave, you know, it's because I was willing to give. And when you operate that way and you focus on continually adding more value, I'm just going to tell you, I hope you guys take this note of this. When you do that and you continually add value, success is inevitable. It'll be a byproduct of it, but you do it because you enjoy it. So let's shift gears for a second. You know, I don't know if you have a family. Are you married, kids, or single? What's your story?
I'm not married, just a very devoted relationship with a small dog.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you this. The question still applies. What did you have to give up or sacrifice to be able to do this, you know, full time and make a living of it and be successful at it?
Yeah. So, you know, for me, I'm very, very goal oriented, and I get hyper focused on what I'm working on. And, you know, in my very committed relationship with, you know, I have my girlfriend, and we have a small dog together. The
Mhm.
biggest part is getting that person who is your number one fan on board. So, I was able to sit her down and say, hey, these are my goals. These are the sacrifices I think that we're going to have to make along the way. This is the outcome. And really my big goal is to support, me and you, and give us the life that we want, so that you don't have to work, and I can do everything, and we can have the lives that we deserve. Our parents won't have to want, if we have kids in the future, they won't have to want, and this is the path that I want to lay out for us. Is that okay? Or is this a deal breaker? What here is a deal breaker, so that we can adjust and so we can still be happy. And I think the biggest point of why a lot of those things fail is because you're not very, very, very hyper clear about your intent and the path to get there and what the goal is.
So glad you brought that up, buddy. In fact, at my boot camp, I talk about this topic because if, I ask who at home has people that don't believe in what you're doing. They're like, oh, okay, you're going to do that. Good luck with that,
Yeah.
or they don't believe in you. And sometimes it's your significant other. Sometimes it's your parents. Sometimes it's siblings. And we talk about it, and I'll go into the audience and ask people, how did you overcome that? If you had that before, that problem where somebody didn't believe in what you were doing, because I'm going to tell you, you have to have that framework. You have to have an environment that supports you. Otherwise, it's literally one step forward, 5 steps backwards, and you're swimming up, against the current, and it's very, very difficult. The most successful people on the planet are the ones that have a solid relationship and a spouse or a significant other that believes in them and supports them and validates them and pushes them. And in fact, it's really funny. I was just talking to Tiffy yesterday, and what did I say? And I was bemoaning something. She's like, "You've got this. Stop it." And I'm like, "Man, that's all I needed to hear." And so you have to get them on board. And so, like I say, I'll pull people in either on my virtual events or my live events. And I'm like, "How did you get past this?" And really, the answer is always the same. It's they communicated. They communicated. They showed the other person what we're doing. Here's what we're going to do, or show examples of other people that have been successful. And just communicate it, because they're operating from their fear or their own limiting beliefs, or, their fear of failure, fear of rejection, whatever it is, or maybe they're comfortable, and so you've got to help push them through that to support you. And so I'm assuming you were successful in that conversation.
Yeah, we were. And to go back to, your environment has such an enormous impact on you, so much that if you are seeing that resistance, and you are seeing, friends and relatives, and these things happen, I was ridiculed for this goal, like apartment buildings. What do you mean? Why don't you just buy a house? You don't even have a house. It's when we were living together with other roommates, and yeah, I said apartment buildings, why not? Why can't I do it? Dude, whatever, man. And those people now, they're not in my lives, and I'm happier for it, and I wish them the best, and they're fantastic. But your environment is so important. So there's this book, Atomic Habits, and there's a study published.
Great book.
Yep, great book. And there's a study published in there. Do you remember the study about the drug addiction with the Vietnam War veterans?
No, I forgot what I had for breakfast, but yeah.
So these war veterans, they would go to Vietnam, and the big thing, they would do drugs. They do heroin, they would do hardcore drugs over there. And then when they came back, they shockingly found that like only 5% of them stayed addicted to those drugs. Versus here in America, if you get addicted to drugs and you go to rehab centers, you come back, the go back rate to those drugs is enormously high. It's like 89% plus. And so they were saying, well, why is that? And it's all because of the environment.
Yeah.
Because when you're here, you go to rehab, you change your environment, you get off the drugs. But what does rehab do? They push you right back into the same environment you just got out of. Now you're back in that environment. You're back with your old friends, your old family, your older circle. In Vietnam, that was the environment where they would do those drugs. When they came back home, they were out of that environment. So it never phased them again.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I forgot that. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And that's why creating, if you don't have it already, creating that supportive environment for you to go off and do this side hustle, because you're going to grind for a few years like most people won't, to be able to live the rest of your life like most people can't. But that environment is a critical piece of that. And, so you have to get them on board. I remember, my dad worked for Continental Airlines for 36 years. He used to tell me, go get a real job, with a pension and retirement. And my mom got $596 or $700 a month from his pension and retirement. And, and he worked for Continental Airlines for 36 years and got laid off. There is no freaking job security. The only job security is between your ears. So, so on that note, what's some other bad advice you've received along the way, if anything comes to mind?
Be realistic.
Oh, I love that. That's a great answer to that question.
And I won't say who, but people who I even still to this day love with all my heart. And I think it comes from a place of love when people tell you that most of the time.
Or it comes from their fears, their fears. And let me interject for 1 second. I want to hear what you have to say. But, people out of their fear, their, limiting beliefs, so that they're not enough and they'll never be enough, they're comfortable. Those three are the big ones. They'll hold you back if you allow them. And sometimes it's family, like we said. So you got to love your family, but you choose to allow who you're going to allow to influence you. Super, super important.
I think, and they say that, yes, because of their own insecurities, but also I think there's a fact that they think they're protecting you, right? Yeah. Because when you embark on something like this, yes, there's risk. Yes, you're going to work a long time, maybe for nothing until you finally get that one thing that pays off. Or maybe you will never make it that far and you're going to end up setting, quote unquote, setting yourself back if you would have stayed in the corporate ladder or whatever. So, get realistic is something that I kind of abided by growing up. But once you study all these ultra successful people, I mean, I've read over 100 books of some of the most successful people in the world. Not a single one in any niche does not talk about get rid of those beliefs. Yeah. Never get realistic. Whatever is realistic to the whole world, what's realistic is different up here. It's not even a word.
Look at Elon. I mean, 3 or is it maybe $4 billion startups at this point? I mean, talk about not being realistic. And I love that answer. And even people in this industry. Look at Cardone. Love him or hate him. I mean, he's got a jet. I think he might even have 2 now, and a helicopter, and hundreds of millions of dollars in equity. From not being realistic. Homes on the East and the West Coast. And again, love him or hate him. He just popped into my head as an example. And by the way, like you just said, it could be love. They love you and they think they're protecting you, but it typically comes from their own fear. Okay. Yeah. Of staying realistic and, and so on and so forth. And love is a component of that for sure. A big component, but man, it can destroy your dreams, especially when they're brand new and it's just a fragile thread. It's so easy to break. So you got to protect it. Super, super important. So talk about a defining moment in your life, like maybe an epiphany or a moment where you're like, okay, now I freaking get it.
Yeah. Perfect moment. I think everybody, when they're growing in their professional career, right, for whatever reason, everybody wants to make a 6-figure income, right? It's like $100,000 a year. It's like, oh my God. And, maybe this was 30 years ago before inflation cut that in half, but, you think you're going to make 100 grand. That's all you need. And for me, that was my pursuit for a long time. Right. And then I finally hit my marks. Oh my God, 6 figures. This is so fantastic. All my problems are over. And then I met a person who's one of our bigger investors. And we've gotten close enough that, we start talking about what we do, what he does, and money situations personally outside of just our investments. And I find out that this guy is making $100,000 a month. And I almost said, what did you say? Like, I must have misheard what you had just said. And he goes, oh no, yeah. Like last year, I think I did, about 102,000 a month, or something like that. And he goes, 1 month I hit 98, it was a horrible month for me. And I just said, okay, that's cool. And I went back that night and I'm just laying in bed. I'm like, $100,000 a month. I go, man, I got to up my game.
That is so freaking funny that you said that, because on the ceiling above my bed used to be a sign that said 100,000 a month, and now says 1 million. My wife hates it. Now it says 1 million a month. Okay, because I achieved it, and like I say, she hates it. But I've always had a sign above my bed that has goals on it. And it was 100. It was 100 a month for a long time. So it's so funny that you talked about laying in bed. And here's the other thing. When you see something or experience something different, it changes your freaking paradigm. I remember, dating a girl when I was really like 18, and I'd go to her house and they had a 3-car garage. I'd never seen a 3-car garage. They had motorcycles and snowmobiles and what was the car they had back then? Oh God, not the Cadillac, the other version, but they had all these, Lincoln Continentals and Corvettes. And I'm like, this is freaking incredible. And once you taste something different like that, that's how you make it happen. So let's shift gears a little bit. I've really enjoyed this part of the conversation because it's obvious this is something you enjoy talking about as well. But let's talk about the market conditions for a minute. What excites you about the market today, and maybe or what scares you?
What excites me is being on the buy side of the market today. We have a couple of properties, of course, that we own and operate. We've gotten some really strong refinance products on those earlier this year, which was fantastic news. So, we're feeling good there. It's exciting to be on the buy side. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities coming. I'm sorry. I don't think there'll be a lot of opportunities coming up, but I think there'll be better opportunities coming up relative to the past few years.
I disagree respectfully. I think there's not just going to be better. I think there's going to be a lot of them. I think commercial real estate is a terrain heading towards a brick wall. I mean, let me give you some office stats, okay? And we'll see if this is the catalyst, but we're going to have bank failures. There's no question we're going to have bank failures. But let me give you some office stats. I just did this on a previous interview, but I want to say it again if you missed that one. Here's what the occupancy rates are in the 6 biggest cities that have office. It's mind-blowing. This is in Forbes this month. So New York City is at 80% occupied. I think it's lower than that, actually. Chicago's at 73%. Los Angeles, 73%. San Francisco, 67%. Houston, 70%. I mean, these assets don't break even at less than 85%, maybe 90% in some cases. And so, and a lot of that debt is with small and regional banks. And I think we're going to see some bank failures, some significant bank failures coming down the pike. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to get you excited. Like you're excited about being a buyer. I just think it's going to be more buying opportunities than you think. Who knows? I'm wrong all the time, but I really am, I'm in a lot of cash. I've got access to a ton of cash, and I really am, getting excited. I mean, I've seen more deals in the last really 90 days than I've seen in the last 3 years. I mean, they're coming out of the freaking woodwork, and brokers are responsive now. And I mean, we've got, I think, LOIs out on 3 deals right now. And so, opportunity is already knocking, but I think exponential opportunity is coming.
It's opportunity coming, right? And, one of us is going to be right. I'm going to take your lead on it. And I think there'll be those opportunities coming up where there's a lot of distress. So get ready. Get ready, whatever that means to you. If you need more cash, if you need to start aligning yourselves with different partners, maybe you want to invest passively and you're like, man, I don't know who I would invest with. Okay, start lining up some of those phone calls, start meeting some of these teams. Guys like you, if you're looking to get active, I can't think of a better time to get inside a mentoring program, because that mentoring program is going to have a guy like you who's going to say, hey, John, who just joined the program, man, this is the formula. You don't have to pass up on all these this distressed debt coming due in the next, 2-3 years. You're going to have the formula from, day one, month one.
Well, not just that. Yes, that and a lot more. But it's really the environment as well. Like I know your mentor has an environment as well. But I mean, we've got, 1,400 warriors around the country that are all active and they're working together. And my most successful warriors by far are the ones that are most connected in that community, connecting with other warriors. And out of those 170,000 doors, they're almost all done between warriors. And so getting in a group like that, I don't care if it's my group, but getting in a group like that is incredibly powerful. And would you agree? I mean, would that help your success?
I mean, we just talked about environment and how big that is. You can't, a lot of groups, they'll say things like, oh, well, we have a Slack channel, we have a Facebook group. Okay. That can be an enormous asset or just a total, POS. If there's such an invaluable portion of a very active Slack channel in a mastermind, a very active group. People are really, passing deals here and there. Hey, I got this capital raising issue. What do you guys think? Hey, I'm looking at this debt product. Which ones do you guys think is better? Then you'll have a guy like you coming in and saying, hey, this debt product mitigates risk here. This debt product maybe is better for this scenario. You just have an unlimited access
Yeah,
to
no, that it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference, and we do it in our Facebook group, but it's incredible. I mean, almost every day there's a closing and somebody bought a deal, and it's just and support and validation, and you're around people that aren't afraid of your success. When you do a deal, you'll have 150 people say, "Awesome freaking job, you rock, great job," and if you need help, you'll have 20, 30 people respond and help, and I will as well if I don't see the answers I like. So. But it's incredibly powerful.
And here's another thing about that is you'll see the deal post up, and then you'll see somebody go, "Man, how'd you do this one?" "Oh, well, I found it this way. And then when I got the contact, I did this. This is what I said. I structured the deal this way. Oh, we had this obstacle. We did this to solve it." Those things are just invaluable. You can listen to podcasts and read books every day of your life for the next 15 years. But just being able to have that scenario laid out for you perfectly for exactly where you're at in your business. Invaluable.
Yeah, and again, on that note, if you want to apply to our Warrior program, there's a little application process. We got to check you out. You check us out. Just text the word CRUSH to 72345 and talk to my team. We'd love to chat with you. It's it's pretty extraordinary. I'm very, very proud of it. It's kind of almost got a life of its own. We've got like little mini masterminds inside of it now, underwriting groups and raising capital groups and all this stuff. And we meet, like you said, you do a Slack channel in your program. I mean, we meet just the Warriors. We got a Warrior event coming up in Phoenix, I think in October, November. And it's, we deep dive on underwriting, deep dive on analysis, and have, attorneys and lenders, and we do case studies and stuff like that. It's just it's a blast. And so we do a couple of those a year as well, but you got to get around them. Like even at my boot camp, my September boot camp, there'll be 200 or 300 Warriors there. And would you agree that it's almost more important? The connections are almost more important than the knowledge itself. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think it is.
I think especially after, once you've been around this group for, maybe a year or so, you kind of start to get a lot of those things, but the knowledge is invaluable, especially up front. Then when you can build your network on top of that, and you kind of grow with these people, right? It's hard to join somebody who is uber successful and you're just starting out. Like your problem is different. You can't level with that guy or girl. You're having different dinners at different restaurants. Like that just doesn't happen. But when you grow with these people, and now you're talking about, hey, we have a couple of deals. Now we're looking to hire. How do we fix for these issues? Okay, now we've got one hire. How do we hire a manager? What does that look like? How do we process payroll? You run into all these different issues. Sure. I'm just starting out. How do I underwrite a deal? Right. So your conversations change, and your network has to change with that.
No, that's good. That's good too. Really good. So I asked you what the worst advice you've got, which was be realistic. What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
The best piece of advice I've ever gotten. This kind of goes back to something that you had said earlier, but giving to others is the most selfish thing you can do, because it tends to come back to you, in multiples.
Oh, what a great answer. I freaking love that. I love that. That reminds me of I typically buy dinner anytime I go out to eat, and someone else tries to buy, I'm like, don't steal my pleasure. Don't and don't be selfish. Let me have it, kind of a thing. And that's an awesome answer to that question. I really love that answer. So you're obviously very driven. You're very motivated. I do motivational clips every week on my show here, and they're called "Own Your Power." They're 5 minutes, and I think people really enjoy them. I think that's one of the reasons it's been so successful. But what's your driver? What's your why? What makes you jump out of freaking bed to go kick butt every day? Tell me what your why is.
That I have the privilege to do so, and that other people would fight tooth and nail. Other people would sacrifice their health, their safety, just to get to where I'm at today, whether it's geographically, again, this is another debate, but I believe I'm in a country that provides a ton of opportunity. I'm in
anybody that would debate that's freaking clueless. Right. Okay.
Yeah,
and if you don't believe we live in a country that provides a lot of opportunity, please go watch somebody else, because that's just stupid.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree. But there's people who would literally risk life and limb and health and safety just to get that.
Yeah, just to be here, I mean, we won't go down the political rabbit hole with this, but I believe we live in the greatest freaking country on earth, and I get hate all the time on my my posts, and people that have an entitled mentality and feel like it should be handed to them, that the government is going to do something for them. I love Ronald Reagan's quote. that it should strike fear in your heart when the government says we're here to help, or we're here to, you make your own success. If you wallow in self-pity and entitlement, you'll never be a success. And I try not to engage. My wife gets pissed when I engage with some of these haters online, but it's like, come on, man, you go out there, you have so much freaking opportunity in this country. You just have to go make it happen.
I believe that. And there's, no matter what situation you're in, other people would love to be there. I get to, thankfully,
believe it.
Live in this country. I get to have a roof over my head. I know that I can pay my rent next month. I know what I'm going to have for breakfast. I get to have this structure in my life. I get to go to work when other people, maybe they have mental disorders, or maybe they have family issues. Or I met another, lady who invests with us, and I had an investment come out, and she said, "Hey, I just can't invest right now." And I said, "Okay, is everything all right?" She goes, "Well, my mother actually is terminally ill. And so I'm taking a step back from work. I won't have any income for, maybe a year or 2 years. So I have to pull back." I mean, wow, you get to go to work every day because that's how you are choosing to spend your time. You get to do these things. So when I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling tired or I'm feeling unmotivated, I'm like, what the hell? There are people who would love to be in this situation, who would love to be feeling the stress I'm feeling, who would love to be faced with the decisions that I have to make today. There's people who would love to be there. So get your ass up. Love it.
I saw a social media post about this guy that immigrated here, and he was crying. He was so happy he got a job at UPS, and just like, wow, that really gives you so, not that there's anything wrong with working at UPS. I worked there for 2 weeks, lost 20 pounds, I think, loading trucks, and it was the hardest job I've ever done in my life. That's all I lasted, was like 2 weeks, not another day, not another freaking minute. But the point is just that emotion around having just a solid job like that was just really powerful for me to see that. So let's end it on this note. Do you have any favorite quotes that you live by or love? Anything come to mind? Is anything that inspires you, drives you, either a quote or maybe an individual, anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I'll go individual on this one.
Okay.
One of my idols, again, whether you love him, hate him, because he did step into the political scene for a little bit, is actually Arnold Schwarzenegger. And if you don't know Arnold Schwarzenegger's story, there's tons of documentaries about him. And part of it, I used to compete in powerlifting, so he's, of course, a big figure in that space. But when you start to learn about him, he wasn't just a guy who lifted weights. He was a guy who overcame so much adversity. Every goal he wanted, he accomplished. Mr. Universe, he got into acting. Then he decided, I'm bored with this. I want to get into politics, became a governor. Right. And again, whether he did a good job or bad job, that's neither here nor there. But when
I thought he did a good job. I'd heard good things. I don't agree with his whole vaccination position, but everything else I completely agree with.
Yeah.
He was a rock star.
Whether you hate him in that position, you have to respect somebody who says, I want this. How do I put myself in a position to get it? Then how do I execute on that? So he
agreed, but in multiple places. That's what's impressive about him. First powerlifting, Mr. Universe, then acting, superstar in acting, and then the freaking governor, and married a huge political person as well. What's her face? I forgot her name now, but Kennedy, married a Kennedy. Really, it's just as really just like Elon, for that matter. I mean, these people that have just conquered so many different things. It's a great answer, brother. Great, absolutely great answer. Well, listen, this has been fun, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. We didn't really get too deep into any real estate stuff, but guys, trust me, this stuff's more important. It just is. It just flat out is. So, and talking about giving back, I remember, we had a Hall of Fame for my Warriors at my Denver boot camp, my last live boot camp. And, we had 10 Warriors that we picked that had just exemplary, and we put a slide up for each one of them. And I noticed something. Every single one of them did something philanthropic, build schools in India, sexual trafficking, veteran stuff. And it was just like, holy crap, you guys see that? That's what we call a clue. Every one of these people has thousands of doors because they give back. So, I'm pounding this India. I know you've heard that. You've heard me say that more than once, but it's because it's important. When you give, success is inevitable. That's just it. Pleasure to meet you, brother. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks so much, Rod. It's been great.
So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow. And they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now, we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now, again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.